The Galactic Empire had never been subtle about its disdain for Earth. Across the glittering expanse of the galaxy, their broadcasts showed images designed to humiliate humanity. Holograms flickered in bright colors above the major colonies, showing Earth's so-called elite soldiers being obliterated in what the Empire mockingly called a training exercise. The soldiers stumbled, their armor failing, their weapons misfiring, their drills collapsing in chaos. The holographic announcer, a cold, silver-voiced AI, laughed as if mocking a child. Millions of eyes across the galaxy watched, and the Empire laughed with them. The message was clear. Humanity was insignificant, weak, irrelevant. Back on Earth, the mood in the command center was grim. Rows of officers and soldiers sat frozen, staring at the flickering hologram. Many clenched their fists, some looked down at their feet in shame, while others seethed quietly with anger. Yet in the midst of this humiliation, one figure remained calm. His sharp eyes scanned the room and then focused on the glowing SOS alert blinking in red on the main console. Captain Rylan Vega. He had earned a reputation across Earth Command as a soldier who could complete missions that seemed impossible. The media rarely covered him. He did not seek fame. But in military circles, Vega's name carried weight. When others hesitated, he acted. When a mission seemed suicidal, he planned and survived. Now, as he stood in the command center, Vega felt the weight of humanity's pride pressing on his shoulders. The SOS alert flashed again, louder and more urgent. Vega's eyes narrowed. A civilian colony, one of the Empire's recent targets, was under attack. The automated voice repeated the warning, "Civilian colony S-1423 compromised. Immediate intervention required." The room fell silent. Many officers looked to each other, unsure what to do. Some argued that sending troops directly against the Empire was suicidal. The Empire's fleet dwarfed anything Earth could currently muster. Their weapons could obliterate a city in minutes. Their soldiers were faster, stronger, and far more ruthless. Any response from Earth was likely to end in failure, but Vega didn't hesitate. He moved quickly to the central console, activating the SOS feed. "I'll go," he said, his voice steady and commanding. "Send me in. I can reach the colony before the Empire completes their strike." Murmurs filled the room. "Captain, it's too dangerous," one officer said. "The Empire is watching us. They'll track any response." "A solo mission. I know what I'm doing," Vega interrupted firmly. His gaze was sharp, unwavering. "If I don't go, thousands will die." "I can't let that happen." The command council hesitated. They could see the determination in Vega's eyes, the same determination that had pulled him out of impossible situations before. After a tense moment, they gave their reluctant approval. Within minutes, Vega was aboard the Horizon Falcon, a stealth-class reconnaissance and strike ship designed for solo missions. The craft was sleek, painted in dark, non-reflective alloys that could slip past enemy radars. Inside, Vega prepared methodically, checking his weapons, armor, and equipment. Every piece of tech was state-of-the-art, the culmination of years of Earth innovation, but even with the best gear, he knew the Empire's soldiers were a deadly threat. As the ship lifted off from Earth Command, the holographic laughter of the Empire's broadcast still lingered in his mind. Their arrogance was almost tangible, their technological superiority unquestionable. Yet Vega didn't let fear take hold. Instead, he focused on the task ahead. The fate of an entire colony, and perhaps the morale of Earth itself, rested on his shoulders. Traveling through the cold void of space, Vega ran simulations in his mind. The colony was isolated, its defenses minimal. The Empire's attack likely relied on overwhelming force and advanced weapons. His plan was simple in theory. Slip past their patrols, reach the colony, neutralize any immediate threats, and evacuate as many civilians as possible. But simplicity was deceiving. The Empire had eyes everywhere, drones and sensors, monitoring the fringes of every system. One wrong move, and Vega would be walking into a death trap. Hours passed as the Horizon Falcon glided silently toward the sector. Vega used the time to study every piece of intelligence available on the Empire's fleet patterns, patrol rotations, and orbital defenses. Despite their overwhelming power, he noticed subtle flaws, small gaps that could be exploited. Every Empire machine had a rhythm, every patrol had a blind spot. Vega memorized them all, knowing that his survival depended on using their arrogance against them. Finally, the colony appeared on the ship's sensors. From orbit, Vega could see the devastation. Buildings smoldered, fires painted the surface in streaks of orange and black. Smoke rose in thick columns, and the distant flashes of energy weapons cut across the horizon. The Empire's attack was precise, designed to destroy morale as much as infrastructure. Civilians fled in panic, but there was nowhere to hide from orbital bombardment. Vega's jaw tightened. He activated the ship's cloaking system and descended toward the colony's outskirts. Every instinct screamed caution, every training drill reinforced the dangers ahead. Yet he moved with unwavering resolve. Each second counted. As he approached, Vega scanned for the Empire's ground forces. Drones hovered above, their sensors scanning for heat signatures. Armored troops patrolled the streets, their weapons ready to fire at any perceived threat. Vega timed his approach with precision, slipping between shadows and staying just outside of sensor range. Then, just as he neared the colony's central plaza, a sudden alert flashed on his dashboard. A drone had detected movement, his movement. Vega's heart pounded, but he remained calm. He activated a small electromagnetic pulse from his wrist device. The drone froze mid-air, sparks flying from its circuits before it crashed to the ground. The alert system blinked red, signaling the Empire's attention. Vega exhaled slowly. They're aware I'm here. Good. Awareness meant the Empire would underestimate him. They thought one soldier could do nothing against them. That underestimation would be his advantage. He moved swiftly into the colony, avoiding open streets, climbing over rubble, and using narrow alleyways to stay hidden. Civilians ran past him, some too frightened to notice him. His presence was a silent promise, a shield they could rely on. Reaching the colony's communication hub, Vega accessed the systems. The Empire had jammed most transmissions, but he quickly hacked into a partially shielded network. A holographic map of the colony appeared before him, showing the locations of enemy patrols and key targets. Vega's mind worked rapidly, calculating the fastest route to rescue civilians and disrupt the Empire's assault. As he plotted his course, a faint vibration ran through the ground, a warning. From the edge of the plaza, armored troops emerged, weapons trained directly on him. The Empire's soldiers had him in a crossfire. Vega's pulse quickened, but he didn't panic. He ducked behind a collapsed wall, firing a precise shot that disabled the lead soldier's targeting system. Chaos erupted among the troops as Vega used smoke grenades and distraction techniques to evade capture. Each step forward was a risk. Each decision could mean life or death. And yet Vega pushed on, driven by something larger than himself. Humanity's pride, Earth's survival, and the knowledge that one soldier could change everything. Finally, as night fell across the colony, Vega reached the center. Civilians had gathered in a small shelter, eyes wide with fear. He stepped forward, raising a hand to calm them. "I'm here to help," he said simply. "We'll get you out of this." For a moment, the galaxy's largest military, an empire that had laughed at Earth for centuries, was completely unaware of the human force now operating under its nose. A single soldier armed with courage, skill, and determination was about to prove that Earth's defenders were not to be mocked. And somewhere deep in the Empire's command structure, alarms blared as their systems registered the unexpected interference. The first hint of panic rippled through their ranks. One SOS mission had begun, and it would not end quietly. The night sky above the colony was quiet, but the silence was deceptive. Fires burned in scattered buildings, smoke curling upward in thick black plumes. Captain Rylan Vega crouched on a ruined rooftop, his armor scuffed and his breath steady. The Empire's patrols moved in precise patterns below, their armored boots clanging against the rubble. Drones hovered silently, scanning for life forms. Every second mattered. Every misstep could be fatal. Vega's mission was simple in theory. Reach the Empire's central communications hub, stop their attack on the colony, and evacuate as many civilians as possible. But he knew simple theory meant nothing in the reality of the Empire's territory. They had troops trained to anticipate every move. Surveillance arrays designed to track a single human across miles of ruined streets, and weapons that could disintegrate steel. One wrong step and he would be history. He glanced at his wrist console. The colony's layout appeared as a holographic map. Red dots marked enemy patrols, blue dots marked civilian clusters, and yellow highlighted the high-priority target, the communications hub. Vega traced a route in his mind, a path that avoided open streets and minimized exposure. His eyes narrowed. He knew the Empire's soldiers expected him to panic. That expectation was his advantage. He moved silently along the shadows, slipping between ruined buildings and debris. Every movement was calculated. The first challenge came within minutes. A drone hovered above an open street, scanning with a bright beam. Vega flattened himself against a wall, waiting for the beam to pass. Sweat ran down his brow, but he did not flinch. Timing was everything. The drone paused, then rotated its sensors. Vega held his breath. Seconds stretched into what felt like hours. Then, with a small motion from his wrist, he released a pulse that temporarily disabled the drone's sensors. Sparks flickered from its body before it crashed to the ground. Vega exhaled quietly and moved forward. As he approached the colony's center, the sound of screams echoed from nearby shelters. Civilians were trapped under debris, some injured, some terrified. Vega ducked into a collapsed building to avoid a patrol and activated a micro-drone from his belt. It flew ahead, assessing the safest path to the civilians. The drone relayed images directly to Vega's console, showing structural weaknesses in the ruins and enemy positions. He set to work. Using compact tools, he lifted debris carefully, freeing a group of terrified civilians. "Stay low," he whispered. "Follow me. Move fast." The civilians obeyed, their eyes wide with fear and relief. Vega led them down a narrow alleyway, avoiding patrols and laser turrets. His heart pounded, but he did not falter. Every step he took was a risk. Every sound could alert the Empire's forces. Suddenly, a patrol rounded the corner. 3 soldiers, heavily armored, weapons trained directly at Vega and the civilians. He froze for a heartbeat, calculating. He could not outrun them, and confrontation could alert others. Then he remembered the small EMP grenades in his belt. With a flick of his wrist, he activated one, sending a wave of electromagnetic energy toward the soldiers. Their weapons sparked and shut down, and their armor briefly lost power. Vega seized the moment. He fired a precise shot from his compact plasma rifle, disabling the lead soldier, then used a smoke grenade to cover the civilians. Within seconds, they vanished into the shadows. Vega knew he could not linger. Every encounter drained precious time. The communications hub waited, and with it, the key to stopping the Empire's assault. He moved faster now, vaulting over rubble and ducking under broken walkways. The colony's streets twisted like a maze, each corner hiding danger. He relied on instinct, training, and a deep understanding of human ingenuity, the very traits the Empire underestimated. Hours passed. Vega navigated through the chaos, neutralizing traps, avoiding ambushes, and rescuing small groups of civilians along the way. Each success strengthened his resolve, but also increased the danger. The Empire's command systems began tracking anomalies in their network. They sensed interference, though they could not locate the source. Vega smiled grimly. They were chasing a ghost. Finally, he reached the outer perimeter of the communications hub. It was a massive structure, armored and fortified beyond anything Vega had seen outside Earth's command facilities. Energy shields shimmered across the walls, and turrets scanned the area relentlessly. His console pinged. This was the impossible part of the mission. No soldier had ever breached the hub alone, and yet he had no choice. The colony's survival depended on it. Vega crouched behind a barrier, studying patrol patterns. He noticed a flaw, a gap in the shield's rotation lasting a mere 2 seconds. It was all the time he would get. Every muscle tensed, every thought focused. Timing, speed, and precision would decide life or death. With a sudden burst, he sprinted toward the shield generator, leaping over debris and dodging laser fire. Sparks flew as a beam grazed his armor, but he kept moving. Reaching the generator, he activated a hacking device. The device hummed as it interfaced with the hub's security system. Seconds ticked by like hours. Finally, a soft beep confirmed success. The shields dropped, if only briefly. Vega didn't hesitate. He slipped through the opening and entered the hub. Inside, the corridors were labyrinthine and heavily monitored. He moved like a shadow, disabling surveillance cameras and avoiding patrols. The hub's central console glowed ahead, a massive system controlling communications across the colony. If he could seize control, he could disable enemy reinforcements, coordinate evacuation, and potentially turn the tide of the attack. Just as he reached the console, alarms blared. The Empire had discovered an intruder. Reinforcements poured into the corridors, soldiers moving with lethal precision. Vega ducked behind a terminal, firing rapidly and taking cover. Sparks flew, weapons discharged, and the sound of clashing fire filled the air. Civilians' lives were at stake, and failure was not an option. In the chaos, Vega activated a network override. Lights flickered, systems rebooted, and a holographic map of the Empire's patrols flashed across the console. He quickly rerouted communications to send an SOS to the scattered Earth forces in the sector. Every second counted. Every action had consequences. Suddenly, a squad of Empire soldiers cornered him in the main hall. Vega assessed his options. Facing them head-on would be suicide. Using a combination of grenades, EMP pulses, and rapid fire, he created a diversion and slipped into a maintenance shaft. It was narrow, dark, and claustrophobic, but it led him closer to the core systems, controlling the hub's energy supply. If he could sabotage them, he could buy the civilians more time. The shaft was a tight squeeze, and sparks rained from exposed wires as he crawled. Every movement triggered alarms, and the hum of machinery vibrated through the walls. Vega pressed on, driven by determination and the knowledge that the colony's fate rested on him. He reached the core chamber, a room humming with energy, far beyond anything designed for humans to manipulate. Vega's hands moved quickly, connecting devices and recalibrating energy flows. He felt the surge through his gloves as power shifted. The lights in the corridors flickered and dimmed, the turrets powered down, and the shields collapsed. He had succeeded momentarily, but success came with a price. The Empire's forces responded immediately. Reinforcements poured into the hub, cutting off exits. Vega was alone, trapped in the heart of enemy territory. The impossible mission had been partially completed, but survival was still uncertain. He paused, catching his breath, then activated a small beacon. Civilians outside the hub received his signal, guiding them toward safety zones. Vega knew the Empire would retaliate, but he had bought time. And in time, humans could survive, fight back, and prove the Empire wrong. As he prepared to move through the corridors again, Vega glanced at the holographic readouts. Intelligence suggested the Empire had an even deadlier plan, one that could wipe out Earth if left unchecked. The stakes were higher than ever. One man, one SOS mission could still change everything. He clenched his fists, determination burning in his eyes. The impossible mission was far from over. Outside, the colony trembled under the Empire's gaze. Inside, one human operative prepared to defy an entire empire. Humanity's fate hung by a thread, and Captain Rylan Vega was holding it firmly. The corridors of the Empire's central hub were alive with motion, yet eerily silent to anyone not trained to notice the faintest signals. Captain Rylan Vega moved like a shadow, his armor blending with the dim lights and damaged walls. Sparks flickered from ruptured conduits above him, and the hum of the hub's machinery vibrated through the floor. Every sound, every movement could alert the Empire's forces. He knew they were expecting intruders, but never one like him. The last mission had been only the beginning. He had bought time for the colony, but now the Empire was mobilizing. Their AI systems had detected anomalies, strange signals, and interference. Human ingenuity had slipped through their iron grip, and that was unacceptable. Vega paused in a darkened alcove and studied a holographic display pulled from the hub's compromised systems. The Empire's AI had begun calculating probable human movements. Patrols were reorganizing, corridors sealed, and turrets recalibrated. Yet every adjustment had its flaw, every move a small crack in the Empire's armor. Vega's mind raced. He didn't have time to think of every possible threat. He had to act. Suddenly, a patrol turned the corner. 3 soldiers, armored in black reflective plating, weapons raised. Vega froze for a heartbeat, then rolled to the side, firing a small pulse that disabled the soldiers' visors. Their vision went blank. They stumbled, confused. Vega struck quickly, incapacitating them without killing. Killing wasn't necessary yet. Stealth and precision were his weapons. The AI reacted instantly, sending reinforcements and activating internal lockdowns. Doors slid shut, forcing Vega to improvise. He accessed a maintenance panel, moving through a narrow shaft to bypass the blocked corridors. Sparks flew as the metal walls groaned under stress. Every second counted. If the Empire reached the colony's civilians before he could act, the mission would fail, and humanity would pay the price, emerging near the communications core. Vega saw the scale of the Empire's operation for the first time. Massive holographic displays tracked fleets across multiple sectors. Weapon systems powered up, and energy surges rippled through the hub's walls. This was more than a local strike. It was the beginning of a coordinated offensive designed to crush humanity before Earth could respond. Vega's jaw tightened. He wasn't just a soldier. He was a defiance against the galaxy's most powerful empire. And now, defiance needed action. He approached the hub's main terminal. His hands flew over the controls, sending encrypted signals back to Earth Command. The first step was simple: disrupt communications to prevent reinforcements from arriving. Sparks danced across the panel as the system resisted his intrusion, but Vega's skill and intuition prevailed. He inserted a small hacking device, a compact piece of technology capable of rewiring the hub's internal systems. The moment the device interfaced, alarms blared. Red lights flashed, and the AI system identified a human presence inside its core. Reinforcements arrived, dozens of soldiers moving with mechanical precision, their weapons calibrated to maximum lethality. Vega ducked behind the console, firing rapidly. Energy bolts sizzled across the terminal, scorching walls and leaving a metallic smell in the air. He didn't wait for the soldiers to recover. Using smoke grenades and timed pulses, he created chaos, then dashed toward the hub's power core. The Empire had invested everything into these systems. If he could disrupt them, even for a few minutes, it would buy the colony precious time. The corridors became a battlefield. Vega moved with purpose, his every action calculated. He disabled security drones with EMP bursts, avoided tripwires, and neutralized patrols with precision shots. Each encounter tested his skill and nerve. The AI adapted quickly, but it could not anticipate human creativity. Vega exploited every weakness, turning the Empire's confidence into confusion. Reaching the power core, Vega encountered a security lock unlike any he had seen before. It was a combination of biometric scans, encrypted passwords, and energy barriers. Time was running out. Civilians were still in danger. The Empire's fleets moved closer to Earth, and every second brought potential disaster. He took a deep breath, focused, and began bypassing the security systems. His hands moved quickly, inserting devices, rerouting circuits, and overriding protocols. Sparks flew as alarms intensified. The AI fought back, initiating shutdowns and activating defensive drones. But Vega pressed on, defiance fueling every move. Finally, the core responded. Energy flows shifted, alarms blared, and the hub's systems faltered. For the first time, the Empire's control seemed imperfect. Vega smiled grimly. He had struck the first blow, a strike of defiance that no one had expected. But victory was fleeting. Reinforcements closed in, soldiers moving in formation, their weapons aimed directly at him. Vega had anticipated this. Using a series of explosive charges, he created a corridor of fire, forcing the soldiers to scatter. He moved quickly, using the chaos to navigate toward the exit route he had identified earlier. Outside the core chamber, Vega paused briefly. His communicator beeped. Earth Command had received his encrypted signals. Civilians were being guided to safety, and some Earth units had begun a response, though small and delayed. He allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. One man, against the might of the Galactic Empire, had achieved something extraordinary. The AI, however, was relentless. It had adapted to his tactics, learning his patterns and predicting his moves. The corridors ahead were now crawling with advanced drones and elite soldiers. Vega's pulse quickened. The mission was far from over. Survival required ingenuity and courage beyond ordinary limits. He ducked into a side passage, narrowly avoiding a drone's energy sweep. Sparks flew from his armor as he rolled across the floor, and he fired at a security console, sending it into overload. Red warning lights flashed throughout the hub, signaling total lockdown. Every exit was now a potential trap. Vega pressed forward, moving silently through maintenance tunnels. His sensors picked up clusters of civilians trapped in collapsed areas of the colony below. He adjusted his course, knowing that saving them was as critical as disrupting the hub. Every decision carried immense weight. The life of each human in the colony rested on his skill and courage. Hours passed, like minutes. Vega navigated the labyrinth of the Empire's hub, bypassing traps, disabling surveillance, and striking when necessary. The AI's frustration became evident. Systems began conflicting, turrets misfired, and patrols hesitated. One human operative, moving with purpose and intelligence, had shaken their confidence. Finally, Vega reached a vantage point overlooking the colony. Fires burned across the streets, but civilians were moving towards safety zones. He allowed himself a brief glance at the holographic displays of the hub, the first clear sign that the Empire's plans were faltering. He knew the next phase would be even more dangerous. The Empire would not tolerate failure. Every soldier and drone would be deployed to hunt him down. Yet Vega did not hesitate. The first strike of defiance had succeeded, but the war was far from over. He had shown humanity could fight back, even against impossible odds. In the shadows, he prepared for the next step. Communication lines disrupted, power systems unstable, civilians moving to safety. The first seeds of rebellion were planted, and the Empire, for the first time, understood that one human, one Earth soldier, could change the rules of the galaxy. Vega's eyes narrowed as he moved deeper into the hub. The impossible mission had begun to shift. Now it was no longer just a rescue, it was a message. Humanity would not bow. Humanity would fight, and one SOS mission had begun to shatter the Empire's mockery. Outside the Empire's hub, the night remained quiet, but tension filled the air. The galaxy had witnessed the first strike of defiance, and rumors of Earth's elite operative would soon ripple across countless systems. Captain Rylan Vega was no longer just a soldier, he was a symbol. One man against an empire had shown that courage, skill, and determination could defy the impossible. The colony was quiet now, but the silence was a fragile illusion. Fires still burned in pockets of the city, and the faint hum of damaged machinery echoed through the streets. Captain Rylan Vega had accomplished the impossible. He had disrupted the Empire's communications hub and given civilians a chance to escape. Yet as he watched from a rooftop, a new danger took shape, one he had not anticipated: betrayal. Back on Earth, Vega had transmitted his intel. Commanders listened to his detailed report of the colony, the Empire's patrols, and the systems he had compromised. Most were impressed. A few were afraid. One person, though, did not report honestly. A trusted ally in the Council, someone Vega had relied on in past missions, secretly forwarded critical information to the Empire. Vega felt it immediately, a cold twinge in his gut, a silent warning from instincts honed over years of impossible missions. Something had shifted. Orders from Earth Command were subtly altered, routing forces away from the colony and delaying reinforcements. Communications he had expected were now slow, fragmented, and suspiciously vague. He could not ignore it. Moving swiftly, Vega accessed Earth's secure networks from his mobile console aboard the Horizon Falcon. He traced anomalies in the command data, patterns that suggested deliberate sabotage. The betrayal was subtle, intended to look like bureaucratic error, but Vega's experience detected the deception. A single traitor could jeopardize everything, from the colony's survival to Earth's entire defense strategy. Meanwhile, the Empire responded faster than anyone had anticipated. Their forces regrouped around the colony, moving with lethal precision. Drones scoured the outskirts, while elite soldiers reinforced checkpoints. Vega knew the Empire would adapt quickly once they realized someone had infiltrated their systems. The trap was closing, and time was running out. He contacted the civilians he had guided earlier, advising them to move to secondary shelters. Every message was encrypted, every route carefully chosen. Despite the chaos, Vega's leadership gave them hope. His presence was a beacon, even if they did not see him, but he could not ignore the political shadows creeping through Earth Command. Orders arrived that contradicted his best judgment. Forces were being delayed, reinforcements rerouted, and some resources held back without explanation. Vega's instincts screamed betrayal. The Council's hesitation and conflicting instructions suggested that someone high up had chosen the Empire over humanity. The thought made his blood run cold. He could not rely on anyone else. Every decision now rested on him. And yet he was not alone. He had trained companions and a network of operatives in the colonies. But the insider threat complicated everything. Trust was no longer a luxury. It was a weapon that could turn against him. Vega returned to the colony under cover of darkness. The streets were littered with debris and smoke, but the people had survived the first onslaught. He moved silently among them, observing, calculating, and preparing for the Empire's next move. Every patrol, every drone, every flashing light was a reminder that the Empire would not forgive intrusion. His suspicions were soon confirmed. One of the communications relays, which he had personally secured, transmitted data directly to the Empire. Someone had tampered with his encryption protocols. Vega traced the signals to an Earth Command terminal. The realization struck hard. A traitor had been feeding the Empire information from the inside. Vega clenched his fists. Betrayal was more dangerous than any drone or weapon. It undermined strategy, eroded trust, and could doom entire missions. Yet he did not panic. Instead, he adjusted his plan. The colony still needed him, the Empire still needed to be challenged, and humanity still had a chance. He devised a countermeasure. Using the compromised terminal as bait, he created false signals, fake troop movements, and fabricated evacuation orders. The traitor would report these false data points to the Empire, leading their forces into traps and buying time for real civilians to escape. As Vega set his plan in motion, he moved toward the Empire's remaining forces in the colony. The corridors were now filled with tension. Every shadow could hide an enemy, every flickering light could signal danger. He relied on stealth, improvisation, and knowledge of the enemy's patterns to move through the city undetected. Suddenly, a squad of elite Empire soldiers appeared at the edge of a plaza, their weapons scanning for life signs. Vega froze, crouched behind a pile of rubble, and waited. Timing was critical. One misstep, and the mission would collapse. He tossed a small EMP device into the middle of the soldiers. Sparks and smoke erupted, disorienting them. Vega moved silently behind cover, incapacitating each soldier with precise strikes. The Empire was formidable, but they underestimated one human who refused to be predictable. Every encounter tested Vega's skill, courage, and intelligence. The betrayal added weight to every decision, forcing him to move faster, think sharper, and act bolder than ever before. Hours into the night, Vega reached a secondary command post used by the Empire to coordinate strikes against the colony. Using hacked controls, he sent false orders, misdirecting enemy patrols and rerouting attacks away from civilians. The colony's survival depended not only on his physical prowess, but also on his ability to outthink the Empire's strategies. Even as he worked, Vega sensed the traitor's presence in the system, a silent shadow, an insider feeding the enemy. The knowledge sharpened his focus. He would expose this betrayal, not only for the success of the mission, but for the survival of humanity's forces across the galaxy. As dawn approached, Vega's efforts began to show results. Civilians moved to safe zones, patrols were misdirected, and the Empire's strikes faltered. One by one, the fires in the streets grew smaller, smoke less dense, and hope returned. Yet Vega knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would retaliate. The traitor's shadow loomed large. Every action had consequences, and the cost of failure was unthinkable. From a vantage point atop a ruined building, Vega observed the city. The betrayal had been turned into a weapon against the Empire, but vigilance was paramount. One wrong move and the mission, the colony, and perhaps Earth itself could fall. He allowed himself a brief reflection. Humanity had survived the first wave. One SOS mission had disrupted the Empire's plans. But shadows of betrayal were everywhere, and trust was now as deadly as any enemy soldier. Vega's eyes narrowed, determination blazing. The fight was far from over. He would find the traitor, expose them, and continue the mission. Humanity could not afford hesitation. Every decision, every step, every strike mattered, and somewhere in the vast halls of Earth Command, the traitor watched, unaware that their actions had already been turned against the Empire. Captain Rylan Vega's first true defiance had become more than a battle. It was a demonstration of human ingenuity, courage, and resilience. As the city slowly quieted, Vega prepared for the next stage. The Empire would not give up. The betrayal was still in play, and the stakes had never been higher. He was ready. Humanity was ready, and the shadows of betrayal, once a threat, had become the spark of a larger fight, one that would shake the galaxy and prove that even the mightiest empire could not ignore Earth's elite soldier. The Empire's flagship hung in orbit above a distant, uncharted planet like a dark colossus. Its hull shimmered with reflective alloys, thousands of weapons lined its edges, and defense drones patrolled every perimeter. This was no ordinary station. It was the heart of the Empire's operations in this sector, a fortress built to crush anyone foolish enough to approach. Captain Rylan Vega stood in the shadows of the Horizon Falcon, his ship concealed by stealth systems and asteroid debris. Below him, the planet's surface gleamed faintly with Imperial energy relays. Every second he lingered was a risk. Sensors could detect the ship, and one alert would bring the full might of the Empire crashing down. Vega had survived impossible missions before. But this was another level. Every instinct screamed caution, but retreat was not an option. The SOS mission had evolved into something far larger. Intelligence suggested the Empire's flagship was preparing a massive strike, one that could devastate Earth if left unchecked. Humanity's survival depended on him infiltrating the ship. He reviewed the plan once more. Enter via maintenance hatch, navigate the labyrinthine corridors, disable key systems, gather intelligence, and escape undetected. Simple in theory. In practice, the Empire's flagship was designed to be inescapable. Sensors, automated turrets, elite troops, and AI patrols covered every square meter. One mistake and he would be trapped, alone, in the heart of enemy territory. The Falcon approached a shadowed sector near the flagship's lower hull. Vega's hands moved quickly, disengaging the cloaking field to lock onto a maintenance bay hatch. With a precise calculation of patrol patterns, he launched the insertion pod, a small stealth craft designed to carry a single operative. It detached silently, gliding toward the hatch like a ghost. Inside, the maintenance bay was a maze of pipes, catwalks, and conveyor systems. Sparks flickered from damaged conduits, casting shifting shadows across the walls. Vega crouched low, moving with calculated steps. Every motion could trigger a sensor. Every sound could alert guards. He pressed forward, careful to avoid laser tripwires and motion detectors. Suddenly, a patrol drone swept down a corridor ahead. Its sensors glowed red as it scanned the area. Vega froze, timing his movement precisely. When the drone passed, he slipped into a side passage, holding his breath. The Empire relied on technology and brute force. They had underestimated human ingenuity. That underestimation was his greatest weapon. Hours passed as Vega navigated the inner corridors. He bypassed patrols, disabled security cameras, and avoided deadly automated traps. The Empire had left no room for error, yet every obstacle became a challenge. He overcame with skill and precision. Finally, Vega reached the ship's armory. Rows of advanced weapons and armor gleamed under the dim lights. The Empire's soldiers rarely left these stores unguarded, but Vega had anticipated the timing. He quickly scanned the systems, disabling security protocols and extracting schematics of the Empire's most lethal armaments. Every piece of intelligence could help Earth's forces in the coming battles. No time to linger. He moved toward the flagship's core, where the central command and control systems were located. This was the heart of the Empire's power, the place where decisions were made and strikes coordinated. If Vega could disrupt it even briefly, it could cripple the Empire's operations in the sector. The corridors leading to the core were heavily guarded. Elite troops patrolled in shifts, drones hovered in every corner, and the hum of energy weapons filled the air. Vega observed patterns, memorizing routes and timing his movements. He slipped past two patrols undetected, ducked into maintenance shafts to avoid a drone sweep, and reached an access point near the command deck. Here, the impossible mission reached its critical phase. Vega connected his hacking device to the port, beginning a silent infiltration of the flagship's systems. He bypassed firewalls, encrypted protocols, and AI defenses. Sparks flew as the system resisted, but Vega's determination prevailed. The central command systems began to respond to his intrusion. Alarms suddenly blared. The Empire had detected interference. Red lights flashed, and a squad of elite soldiers moved toward Vega's location. He ducked behind a conduit, firing a series of disabling pulses that stunned the approaching troops. Smoke grenades created a wall of confusion, and Vega slipped deeper into the corridors. He reached the command core, a massive chamber with walls covered in glowing holographic displays, tracking fleets, colonies, and strike vectors. Drones hovered in grids around the room, and a dozen soldiers stood ready to defend it. Vega's heart pounded, but he did not falter. He had trained for impossible situations before, and now he faced one of the deadliest challenges of his career. Using a combination of stealth and precise strikes, Vega neutralized the outer drones silently. One by one, he incapacitated the soldiers, exploiting their blind spots and reaction delays. The Empire's confidence faltered. They had assumed no human could penetrate this deep without detection. Vega's defiance shattered that assumption. Finally, he reached the central console. Data streamed across the holographic displays. Fleet positions, weapon schedules, colony coordinates. Vega quickly downloaded the intelligence, encrypting it for transmission back to Earth Command. He then initiated a series of system overrides. Turrets deactivated, communications scrambled, and the flagship's energy distribution fluctuated. For the first time, the Empire's flagship was vulnerable, but the danger was far from over. Reinforcements poured in from every sector of the ship. Soldiers armed with energy rifles and drones, programmed for lethal efficiency, closed in. Vega's escape route was now compromised. Every step forward was a risk. Every breath could be his last. He pressed onward, moving through service tunnels that ran behind the core. Sparks flew from damaged conduits, and the hum of machinery grew deafening. Vega ducked behind piping, fired at security drones, and avoided tripwire traps. Each corridor was a gauntlet designed to kill, yet he advanced with unyielding determination. Finally, he reached a maintenance hatch leading to the Falcon's retrieval point. The pod waited silently, its engines ready to carry him away. Vega glanced back at the command core. Chaos reigned. Systems malfunctioned, patrols scrambled, and the AI attempted to regain control. He had struck a decisive blow, but the Empire would not forget this intrusion. As he climbed into the pod, a squad of soldiers appeared at the far end of the tunnel. Vega fired rapidly, creating cover while launching the pod's stealth systems. The craft detached from the hatch, gliding silently through the maintenance shafts, and emerged near the Falcon. With precision, he docked and activated the engines. The flagship's sensors were sweeping the area, but Vega's stealth field kept him undetected. As he navigated through asteroid debris and shadowed space, he allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. He had infiltrated the Empire's most fortified stronghold, struck at its heart, and survived. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. The intelligence he had gathered revealed a far greater threat. A coordinated strike on Earth, prepared by the Empire's most advanced weapon systems. Humanity's survival depended on using this information wisely. One SOS mission had escalated into a galactic-scale confrontation. Vega transmitted the downloaded data to Earth Command. Algorithms began analyzing fleet positions, weapon readiness, and vulnerabilities in the Empire's systems. Plans for counterattacks and evacuations formed in real time. Humanity had a fighting chance, thanks to one elite operative who had dared to enter the lion's den. As the Falcon slipped into shadowed space, Vega allowed himself a rare breath. He had faced the Empire at its core and emerged alive. The impossible mission had succeeded, but the galaxy was far from safe. The Empire would retaliate, the stakes would rise, and the next phase of defiance would demand even more courage, ingenuity, and sacrifice. Vega gazed at the stars, determination burning in his eyes. Humanity had struck first, but the battle was only beginning. And one man, one SOS mission, had proven that even the mightiest empire could not ignore Earth's elite soldier. The galaxy trembled under the weight of the Empire's dominance. Entire star systems bent to its will, fleets patrolled the void, and colonies cowered under the threat of annihilation. Yet in the midst of fear, a spark of defiance had ignited, a spark that began with one SOS mission and one elite Earth soldier, Captain Rylan Vega. Back on Earth, the intelligence Vega had gathered from the Empire's flagship was analyzed at lightning speed. Fleet movements, weapon coordinates, weak points in orbital defenses, all of it painted a picture of the Empire's vulnerability. For the first time in decades, Earth Command dared to hope. But hope required action, and action required leadership. Vega had already shown he could strike where others could not. Now he would lead humanity's first coordinated revolt. The SOS revolt began in the shadows. Vega coordinated with scattered Earth operatives stationed across various colonies, transmitting encrypted signals and mobilizing forces silently. Fleets that had been dormant, waiting for orders from a cautious council, now surged into motion. For many soldiers, it was the first time they had acted with purpose against the Empire. Not just to defend, but to strike back. In the outer sectors, Vega oversaw the deployment of specialized squads trained to sabotage Imperial supply lines. Using stealth technology captured from the flagship, they infiltrated orbital stations, disabling weapons and communications. Each strike sent a ripple through the Empire's command network. Their soldiers were skilled, but they had never faced an enemy that could think unpredictably, move invisibly, and strike with surgical precision. Meanwhile, Vega focused on the Empire's core stronghold, the same flagship he had infiltrated. He knew a direct assault would be suicide, yet he also knew he could turn the Empire's arrogance against them. The flagship relied heavily on automated defenses, predictable patrols, and centralized command. Vega devised a strategy that combined intelligence, stealth, and human ingenuity, a plan that no AI could anticipate. His first move was psychological. False transmissions, disguised as rebel activity across multiple sectors, drew the Empire's forces away from key positions. Vega's team staged decoy strikes, small but precise, creating chaos and forcing the Empire to spread its troops thin. Every move was designed to mislead, confuse, and buy time. Inside the flagship, Vega prepared his next infiltration. The corridors, still recovering from his previous sabotage, were now reinforced. New patrols, elite soldiers, and advanced drones roamed the halls. Yet Vega moved like a shadow, exploiting patterns he had memorized, bypassing sensors, and neutralizing threats with minimal engagement. Every step required precision, every second could mean death. Outside, Earth fleets engaged Imperial patrols in space. Ships moved in coordinated formations, striking with weapons calibrated to exploit weaknesses Vega had identified. For the first time, human technology, strategy, and courage combined to challenge the Empire head-on. The SOS revolt was no longer just a mission, it was a statement. Humanity would no longer hide. Back in the flagship's core, Vega accessed the main control systems. Energy flows, weapon arrays, and fleet coordination were now vulnerable. He deployed a series of hacks, disabling critical systems, rerouting power, and creating openings for Earth forces in orbit. Each keystroke, each manipulation of the Empire's technology undermined their control. The flagship, once a symbol of absolute power, now trembled under the defiance of one human operative. The Empire's AI adapted quickly, but Vega anticipated their responses. He used misdirection, false signals, and timed EMP bursts to stay ahead. Elite soldiers attempted to flank him. Drones tried to predict his movements, yet he remained elusive, striking only when advantage was absolute. Human ingenuity and unpredictability became the Empire's greatest threat. Hours passed like minutes. The revolt escalated across multiple fronts. Colonies once silent under fear now joined the fight. Civilians armed with stolen weapons and support units engaged in sabotage. Communication hubs, transport routes, and supply lines, all targeted with surgical precision. Vega's strategy transformed scattered acts of rebellion into a coordinated offensive. Despite victories, the danger intensified. The Empire was ruthless and adaptive. Counterattacks came swiftly, targeting Earth fleets and planetary colonies. Vega's teams faced ambushes, and some operatives paid the ultimate price. Yet for every setback, Vega adapted. Retreats became traps, ambushes became opportunities, and every challenge strengthened the revolt. The climax of the SOS revolt approached when Vega targeted the flagship's primary weapons array. From his stealth position, he coordinated simultaneous strikes. Orbital ships fired at critical nodes. Sabotage teams disabled defensive systems, and Vega infiltrated the array to complete the operation manually. Each action was timed to perfection, each movement a calculated risk. Inside the array, Vega faced elite guards and automated turrets. Energy bolts sizzled through the corridor, sparks flying as weapons discharged. He moved with lethal precision, using cover, timing, and his advanced training to neutralize threats. The array's core was within reach, but the Empire's reinforcements arrived faster than anticipated. With seconds to spare, Vega activated the core's override. Energy flows reversed, turrets disabled, and a chain reaction began that would temporarily cripple the flagship's offensive capabilities. The Empire's flagship, a symbol of invincibility, staggered under the weight of one operative's defiance. Outside, the revolt's success became evident. Imperial patrols faltered, Earth fleets gained momentum, and colonies once terrified began celebrating small victories. Vega's SOS mission had evolved into a full-scale uprising, a revolt that proved humanity could challenge the galaxy's most feared power. Yet Vega knew the fight was far from over. The Empire would adapt, retaliate, and seek vengeance. The SOS revolt had won the first battle, but the war was only beginning. Humanity had shown courage, skill, and determination, and the galaxy had taken notice. From the shadows of the flagship, Vega transmitted a final encrypted message to Earth Command. The first strike of defiance is complete. Prepare for the next phase. Humanity does not yield. The SOS revolt had begun with one man, one mission, one spark of defiance. Now that spark had ignited across star systems. The Empire could no longer ignore Earth's elite soldier, and the galaxy would never view humanity the same way again. Captain Rylan Vega watched the chaos unfold, determination burning in his eyes. One mission had evolved into a revolt, one soldier had inspired countless others, and humanity's fight for survival had truly begun. The galaxy was no longer silent. Systems once bowed under the Empire's might now whispered of rebellion. Colonies that had trembled in fear now prepared to fight, inspired by one human, one operative, and one SOS mission that refused to surrender. Captain Rylan Vega stood aboard the Horizon Falcon, overlooking a starfield filled with fleets moving with precision. Every ship, every soldier, every civilian in hiding had a role to play. This was no longer a simple mission. It was humanity's declaration of defiance against the stars themselves. Vega's mind raced. Intelligence gathered from the Empire's flagship had revealed new threats, fleets converging on Earth, orbital bombardments planned for multiple colonies, and advanced warships equipped with energy weapons capable of decimating entire cities. Time was running out. Failure was not an option. Humanity's future depended on him. The first sign of trouble came from a distant relay station. Vega's console beeped urgently. A communication from an allied colony reported that Imperial forces had discovered a hidden base. Civilians were under immediate threat, and reinforcements were days away. Vega's pulse quickened. He could not ignore them. He had trained for impossible missions, but this was the first time the stakes felt truly infinite. He plotted a course to the colony, relying on stealth routes through asteroid fields to avoid detection. The Falcon glided silently, almost invisible against the void. Vega's fingers danced across the controls, coordinating with his scattered teams. Each operative had precise instructions, and every movement was calculated to maximize impact while minimizing risk. Upon arrival, the scene was devastating. Imperial ships hovered above the colony like vultures, deploying drones to suppress resistance and capture civilians. Smoke and fire filled the atmosphere. Vega activated the Falcon's cloaking field and descended toward a secondary landing zone. Civilians moved through smoke-filled streets, guided by encrypted signals and improvised signs. But panic had begun to spread. Vega leapt from the Falcon, plasma rifle in hand, and moved with silent precision. Patrols scanned the streets, their weapons sweeping methodically. He struck with precision, disabling sentries before they could raise alarms. Every step was a calculated risk. Civilians needed to survive, and every second counted. Meanwhile, orbital fleets engaged in combat. Human ships, inspired by Vega's previous operations, struck Imperial supply lines and communications arrays. The SOS revolt had become a coordinated uprising, but the Empire's retaliation was swift and brutal. Vega's tactics relied on disruption, misdirection, and exploiting weaknesses the enemy did not expect. Inside the colony, Vega reached the central square. Civilians had barricaded themselves, but morale wavered. He addressed them, his voice calm yet firm. "Stay low. Follow my instructions. Trust me, and you will survive. Humanity is stronger than they believe." His presence alone ignited courage. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, humans could fight. They could endure. Suddenly, the Empire struck harder. Reinforcements landed via dropships, and elite soldiers advanced with deadly precision. Vega moved through the chaos, coordinating teams to sabotage energy grids and disable defensive turrets. Civilians were evacuated along pre-planned escape routes, protected by human operatives disguised in shadows. Each success came at a cost. Every firefight left the streets scarred. Every skirmish a reminder of the Empire's reach. Vega received a distress call from Earth Command. A trusted advisor, someone he relied upon for years, had been compromised. The traitor's actions were feeding intelligence directly to the Empire, predicting human moves before they happened. Vega's jaw tightened. Betrayal had always been a threat, But now it was personal. He would have to confront it, and quickly, or risk losing everything humanity had fought for. Despite the betrayal, Vega pressed forward. He moved toward the Imperial Command Hub within the colony, a facility controlling drones, communications, and reinforcements. Using the chaos he had created, he infiltrated the hub, avoiding patrols and disabling security systems with precision. Every move demonstrated human ingenuity and adaptability, qualities the Empire had dismissed. Inside, he discovered evidence of the traitor's transmissions. Files, encrypted communications, and routing logs revealed the full scope of the sabotage. Vega's mind raced. Exposing the traitor was crucial, not only for the success of the mission, but for humanity's unity. When Divided Front could not stand against the Empire, he set a countermeasure. Using the compromise system, Vega sent false intelligence back to the Empire, luring their forces into traps while protecting civilians and reinforcing human positions. Each step required nerves of steel. The Empire had expected human predictability, but Vega had turned their confidence against them. Hours passed, but the battle raged on. Vega coordinated attacks across the colony, disabling turrets, diverting patrols, and guiding civilians to evacuation points. The Empire's forces were skilled, but they were now reacting to a human mind that anticipated their every move. Each successful strike, each rescue, was a testament to human courage, strategy, and resilience, the essence of HFY. Finally, Vega faced the final challenge. A squadron of elite Imperial soldiers had cornered him near the command hub. He assessed the situation quickly. Retreat was impossible. Engagement was deadly. Using precision strikes, smoke grenades, and misdirection, he created an opening, neutralizing the squad one by one. Every move was calculated, every second critical. Humanity's survival depended on him. With the immediate threat neutralized, Vega transmitted final instructions to the colony and orbital forces. Civilians were safe, enemy patrols were misdirected, and the traitor's transmissions had been exploited to gain strategic advantage. For the first time, the colony could breathe. The first tangible victory of the SOS revolt had been realized, but Vega knew the Empire would respond with full force. The flagship, still operational, would retaliate. Other sectors would be targeted. Humanity's defiance had been revealed, and the galaxy was watching. The stakes had never been higher. From the rooftop, Vega gazed at the stars. The lights of distant ships glimmered in the void, both friends and enemies. Humanity had taken its first true step against the Empire. One SOS mission had grown into a revolt. One man had inspired countless others, and the galaxy had begun to understand that humanity would not bow. Vega's eyes burned with determination. The fight was far from over. The Empire would strike back, but humanity was no longer silent, no longer hidden, and no longer weak. Every mission, every act of courage, and every sacrifice had brought them to this point. The SOS revolt had succeeded, but the war was not over. Captain Rylan Vega would continue to lead, to inspire, and to strike fear into the Empire. Defiance against the stars was just beginning, and humanity's brightest hour had yet to come. The galaxy had grown restless. Systems once trembling under the Empire's power now whispered of rebellion. Fleets moved with cautious precision. Colonies prepared defenses, and the stars themselves seemed to watch as humanity prepared for the ultimate confrontation. Captain Rylan Vega, Earth's elite operative, stood at the forefront, a symbol of defiance, ingenuity, and resilience. Intel from previous missions had revealed the Empire's ultimate weapon, a massive orbital superweapon capable of annihilating entire planets in minutes. It hovered in the void above Earth, a silent menace, its energy pulsing with destructive intent. Every second it remained operational was a countdown to potential extinction. Humanity had no choice but to strike. Vega's plan was audacious: infiltrate the weapons control station, disable its core, and disrupt the Empire's fleet simultaneously. The operation required precision, coordination, and courage beyond ordinary limits. Every fleet, every operative, every civilian fighter had a role to play. The SOS revolt had grown from a single mission into a galaxy-scale operation. Humanity would fight as one. The Horizon Falcon approached the weapon under the cover of darkness. Vega checked systems, coordinated with orbital forces, and reviewed mission protocols. Failure was not an option. Every life in the solar system depended on him. He descended toward the control station via stealth pod, its hull built to withstand detection. Every second of exposure increased the risk of catastrophic failure. Inside the station, the corridors were a maze of energy conduits, weapon arrays, and automated defenses. Patrols moved with precision, drones scanned for life, and AI systems monitored every sensor. Vega moved like a shadow, exploiting gaps, disabling turrets, and neutralizing guards with lethal efficiency. Every step, every breath, was a calculated risk. Meanwhile, Earth fleets engaged the Empire's approaching forces. Ships struck supply lines, disabled communications, and drew enemy fire away from Vega's infiltration. The galaxy watched as human ingenuity and courage clashed with Imperial might. For the first time, the Empire faced an enemy they could not predict, a species capable of adaptation, strategy, and defiance. Vega reached the weapon's control hub. The core pulsed with destructive energy, massive holographic displays showing planetary coordinates and firing sequences. He inserted the hacking device and began overriding the systems. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the AI reacted instantly, deploying elite troops and activating defensive turrets. Every second was critical. Vega moved with precision, striking when necessary, using misdirection, and exploiting the AI's blind spots. Energy flows fluctuated, turrets misfired, and the AI began to recalculate in panic. The weapon, once a symbol of absolute power, now faltered under human ingenuity. Outside, Earth fleets intensified the attack. Human ships exploited the confusion, striking at weak points in Imperial formations. Colonies provided artillery support, sabotaging the Empire's orbital stations. The SOS revolt had become a full-scale galactic resistance, coordinated, relentless, and impossible for the Empire to ignore. Inside the control hub, Vega faced a squadron of elite Imperial guards. Energy rifles flared, drones swooped, and the AI predicted his movements. Vega's training, skill, and intuition guided him. He moved with speed, precision, and ingenuity, neutralizing threats while maintaining focus on the core. Each strike, each maneuver, was a testament to humanity's resilience. Finally, the core responded. Energy flows reversed, firing sequences disrupted, and the weapon's destructive capacity collapsed. The AI struggled to regain control, but Vega had won the critical moment. Earth's planet, its colonies, and humanity's fleets were safe for now, but the Empire would not surrender. The flagship, still operational, launched a counterattack, deploying fleets to crush human forces. Vega, however, had prepared for this. Using intelligence gathered from previous missions, he coordinated a galaxy-wide counterstrike. Fleets moved in synchronized formations, flanking the enemy, exploiting weaknesses, and striking with overwhelming precision. The battle raged across the stars. Explosions lit the void. Energy weapons flashed like lightning, and ships collided with titanic force. Humanity, once underestimated, now commanded respect. Vega's leadership, courage, and ingenuity inspired every soldier, civilian fighter, and fleet commander. Every action became a strike of defiance, a testament to the HFY spirit. Within the flagship, chaos erupted. Systems failed, patrols were decimated, and AI defenses collapsed under coordinated strikes. Vega's previous infiltrations, intelligence gathering, and sabotage had weakened the Empire's backbone. One SOS mission had grown into a galaxy-wide rebellion, turning fear into defiance. As the final strike was coordinated, Vega watched from the Falcon. Imperial forces crumbled, flagship systems failed, and fleets surrendered or fled. Humanity had survived the impossible. The Empire, once thought invincible, now bowed to one undeniable truth. Earth's elite soldiers, driven by courage, ingenuity, and defiance, could change the course of the galaxy. On the planet below, celebrations erupted. Colonies once cowering under fear now shouted in triumph. Civilians, soldiers, and allies cheered, their voices carrying across communication networks, signaling that humanity had prevailed. One SOS mission, one operative, and one united species had turned the tide. Vega allowed himself a moment of reflection. The battle was over, but the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had proven its strength, its courage, and its resilience. The Empire's arrogance had been shattered, and a new era had begun, one where humans were no longer underestimated. Transmission after transmission confirmed victory. Colonies secured, fleets intact, civilians safe. Humanity had triumphed not through numbers but through ingenuity, courage, and the unyielding spirit of a species determined to survive and thrive. Captain Rylan Vega gazed at the stars, determination still burning in his eyes. An SOS mission had begun as a simple act of defiance, but it had grown into a legend, a rallying cry for all who would stand against tyranny. Humanity had triumphed, the galaxy had witnessed it, and the stars themselves seemed to acknowledge the courage of Earth's elite soldier. The final message from Vega echoed across the galaxy. We are human. We are resilient. We do not bow. This is our time. And with that, Earth's triumph was complete. The Empire's mockery had ended. Humanity had not only survived, it had risen, united, and proven that even against the vastest powers of the galaxy, courage, intelligence, and defiance could change the fate of stars. The SOS mission had concluded. But the legend of Captain Rylan Vega, Earth's elite operative, would echo across the galaxy for generations. Humanity had claimed its place among the stars, not as a footnote, but as a force that would never be ignored.